Eddie Howe is the new man in charge at Newcastle United. Dean, when did it come to this point?
Well, I don't think this is really the name that everybody had in mind when we had this big takeover and all the glamour around it about the big money that was going to be spent. But ultimately, he's been on their radar since pretty much day one. I'm told that Harry Redknapp was the one that kind of recommended him for the role. He's close with some of the people that run in the club. Then Unai Emery came into the running because he was kind of promised to them by an agent. Turned out kind of a false promise because they couldn't actually get Unai Emery. And so it's back to the drawing board. And then Eddie Howe basically emerged through interviews as the guy that overtook the likes of Paulo Fonseca to get the job. It's taken a little while because while Howe was getting his term signed off, Jason Tindall, his assistant, wasn't completely satisfied with what he was getting. Far from satisfied, to be honest with you. They didn't realise quite how important he was to Eddie Howe, and Eddie Howe was like, I'm not signing until this guy is happy. So that's taken a little bit of time to get this going. But let's make no mistake about it. The need for Newcastle to get in a new manager is so important. They haven't won a game since May. They look like they're going down. They need some solidity, some shape. They need a kick up the backside. I don't know what they need, but they need something from Eddie Howe.
All of that.
Yeah, all of that.
And more.
Much more. And Eddie Howe's got to come with some answers very quickly. And I guess they just believe that he's got the pedigree to do that.
Okay. Well, so Sam, Newcastle are very ambitious. We've seen this. We've heard lots about how ambitious they are. Is this the name that you thought they'd be going for at this point?
Well, no, but it's not the name they initially went for, is it? Because it was Unai Emery and it was maybe Paulo Fonseca and it has been an elongated process. But Eddie Howe is the name that they have ended up with. I shouldn't say ended up with because he's a good coach. And I guess trying to get a read on him as an appointment, I feel is quite difficult. I feel quite conflicted when trying to assess Howe's credentials because there's one part of me that says, Sam, he took Bournemouth from League 2 to the Premier League and stabilised them for, 5 years in the Premier League? That is an unbelievable effort.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible and deserves all the praise in the world. The other part of me says he got to the Premier League, they had this great couple of seasons, a lot of momentum. He was never able to refresh the squad and he really struggled to incorporate new players and actually he struggled to incorporate better players. The guys that he'd had with him all the way through the leagues, your Steve Cooks, your Adam Smiths, your Charlie Daniels, these guys, they were there, they were his guys. When he tried to evolve, he struggled. So now he's stepping into a situation where he's going to be given, if they stay in the Premier League, some very, very good players worth a lot of money. It's going to be the same battle and the same issue over and over again. And I'm asking myself, can Eddie Howe do it? Because I feel like he struggled to do this at Bournemouth. That said, baseline, appoint a manager that's better than your previous one. He's better than Steve Bruce. He'll coach better football and he will improve players. I guess that's the three boxes you sort of have to tick at the very start.
Eddie Howe gets a lot of stick, right, because he paid £20 million for Dominic Solanke and also paid over the odds for Jordan Ibe, right? And those two are held against him. Now, Solanke has 11 goals in 16 games for Bournemouth this season, so perhaps that wasn't quite as bad a transfer as everyone made out, although it did take some time and it has taken him a drop into the Championship to really discover some form. But actually, if you look at his signings at Burnley and at Bournemouth, even if things didn't necessarily work out in the end, you look at Harry Wilson, Ben Mee, Kieran Trippier, Nathan Ake, Tyrone Mings, David Brooks, Lewis Cook, Aaron Ramsdale, Ryan Fraser, Josh King, Danny Ings. These are a lot of players, a lot of plucked from obscurity and taken out and made into either internationals or mainstays in a football team. This isn't as bad a record as perhaps it's sometimes made out to be.
I always ask the question, like, how involved was he in this transfer process? You know nowadays it's not necessarily always or even ever a manager who signs these players. Are we correct to give Eddie Howe praise for those signings you've mentioned? Are we incorrect for saying that Solanke and Ibe were his fault? Were they even his picks? You just don't know anymore, is it? That the process is much more modelled and much more layered than that.
Yeah, look, we're going to now start to look towards January and what do Newcastle do? Is this where the spending begins? And it is where the spending begins. They began recruitment before Howe even took this job. They began the process in the first week of November about drawing up a list of names that they're going to go for
Dominic Solanke's
and actually working on them.
It's Jordan Ibe, Jefferson Lerma.
Ultimately, Howe will get a say in where they go, but he's not going to get the full say because there's a lot of other people working on these transfers. People like Tarkowski are obviously being targeted, and I think Tarkowski is a good fit because you're in a relegation battle, you need somebody to help get you through that, but he can also take that step up next season when they're looking to be more ambitious. That's the level of player you're looking at right now. They need to look short term first and foremost, who keeps us in this division and does a job for next season as well. So you're really looking at 18-month projects on players for this first window. Once you get to the summer, you can start to look a little beyond that. But first and foremost, Newcastle cannot go down this season. And by the time we get to May, they shouldn't even be in that conversation if things have gone well.
Okay. Well, I mean, the main thing is that Eddie Howe is now reunited with Matt Ritchie, and that can only be a good thing. We'll see how he gets on at Newcastle here at LiveScore.